Kamen Rider Amazons is a streaming spin-off show of the Kamen Rider franchise made for Amazon Prime, targeting an older audience than normal for the franchise. When promoting Kamen Rider Amazons, producer Shinichiro Shirakura openly talked down the modern series, saying that Amazons was made to give Kamen Rider its fangs back. This is most likely just marketing fluff to tell people how different Kamen Rider Amazons is gonna be from your other Heisei Kamen Rider shows. But considering that the main writer of Kamen Rider Amazons is Yasuko Kobayashi, who broke the Kamen Rider mold back in 2002 with Kamen Rider Ryuki, I don't think it's as hyperbolic as some may think. While being pitched as a reimagining of the original Kamen Rider Amazon series from the 70s, Amazons decides to develop its own lore separate from Amazon, taking just the name, some terminology, and an aesthetic to build off for its own story. Amazons lasted for 2 seasons plus a movie, and is actually one of the few Rider shows you can legally watch in America right now if you have an Amazon Prime subscription. However, it's called Amazon Riders instead of Kamen Rider Amazons, and there was a dub commissioned for at least the first season of the show, but it was never used or included with the release. Neat facts aside, Season 1 of Amazons follows 2 main Kamen Riders, Haruka, Kamen Rider Amazon Omega, and Jin, Kamen Rider Amazon Alpha. Jin wants to exterminate all the Amazons, while Haruka attempts to find his resolve throughout the season, while working for the extermination team hired by Nozama Pharmaceutical to hunt down rogue Amazons. Later in the season, it's revealed that the Amazons were created as experiments by Nozama, meaning the extermination team was hired to clean up their mess. This is also why Jin hates the Amazons so much, being a former employee of Nozama and wanting the creations he inadvertently helped give birth to gone from this world, going so far as to become an Amazon himself to help complete the mission, which means he'll eventually kill himself when this mission's all over. Jin is very direct when it comes to his morality, with his philosophy to save whatever humans he can from the Amazons, even if they've done terrible things. Jin believes he owes humanity for unleashing the Amazons onto them, along with having a vibe of nihilistic self-loathing he hides behind his quirks, like eating raw eggs. Despite his complex morality, Jin is very entertaining to watch of how playful he is in character interactions and fight scenes. Also, his relationship with his wife is adorably tragic. As for Jin's rival Haruka, he starts off new to the whole Amazon shtick, only awakening to his powers in the first episode. After many different characters egging him on in different directions of what he should use his Amazon's powers for, or if he should suppress them, he decides to just use it for himself, defending other Amazons that need his protection from both humans and the enemy. If Jin is a man of extremes, Haruka is one of balance. Haruka believes in a world where Amazons and humans can coexist without killing each other, while Jin would rather exterminate all Amazons even if they don't pose a single threat. Their dynamic, while simple, is very compelling, and I like how we see the flaws and merits to both of their philosophies throughout the season. Then we have the extermination team, who are hired hands sent to deal with the Amazons, and I really enjoyed their presence in the show. Not only can they hold their own in a fight, but they each have unique characteristics to make them stand out from one another, whether it be in their backstories or personality traits. The show gives them moments to just chill, vibe, and showcase how strong their bond is, which makes it all the more tragic when their Amazon companion, Mamoru, accidentally gets a thirst for blood and must leave the squad to prevent them from getting hurt. Mamoru was the heart of the team, the naive, optimistic guy who just wanted to fight for burgers and his friends, but is forced to leave his friends by the end of the season to prevent them from his newfound bloodlust. It doesn't help that earlier in the season he had to kill a resurrected version of a friend, Jun, aka Amazon Sigma. Jun dies very early on in season 1, trying to help a former friend turn Amazon out, but his corpse is resurrected and messed with by Nozama to become Kamen Rider Amazon Sigma, an easily controllable puppet meant to fight off the Amazon Riders. This messes with the remaining extermination team heavily, especially since Sigma keeps intact Jun's old chest quirk. I quite like Sigma's inclusion in the story, both in showcasing how screw up Nozama science can get, challenging the extermination team, and just being a menacingly cool threat to our main riders. That's the bulk of my narrative analysis for season 1, but before we move on to season 2, I should address how visually different Amazon is compared to other Kamen Rider series. The obvious thing to note is that there's a dark green filter around everything, which may seem like a cheap way to build a horrific atmosphere and to make it seem more adult, but dang it, I think it works for this series. To me, the reason why the filter works is also why the blooded dismemberment present in Amazons works. It takes a stylish approach to aging up Kamen Rider for adults, being reminiscent of something a kid would think is more adult rather than grounding itself in being quote-unquote realistic. Amazons' atmosphere isn't too grounded in reality with all the wireworks and stylized blood on display, but I think it's for the best. It keeps the fantastical nature of modern Kamen Rider's visuals, but applies them to a more brutal story, which I think is why Amazons works so well. It's not trying to reinvent the wheel or be more realistic when it comes to Kamen Rider, both visually or narratively. It just applies the Kamen Rider formula to a more grown-up story while keeping the elements both serious and lighthearted that people like from Kamen Rider. Will Season 2 be able to keep this understanding of Kamen Rider's appeal intact? Let's find out. Kamen Rider Amazon Season 2. I don't hate it, but I didn't love it as much as Season 1. I'd still call it good, but there's just some things I couldn't vibe with. On a technical side, there's an increased amount of blood and gore in Season 2, which depending on your taste will either be a positive because yay, more blood and guts, or negative because you're queasy to an excessive amount or you just become numb to it. I personally don't mind it and I think it leads to some cool visuals every now and then, though I do see why some might find it excessive. But on the writing side, our protagonist for Season 2 is not Haruka or Jin, it's Chihiro, aka Kamen Rider Amazon Neo. Chihiro's a young Amazon who's kinda just floating through life, doing whatever his friends tell him to do, until he finds someone to relate to in Iyu, a dead human revived as an Amazon. She can feel nothing and is basically a walking weapon at this point, yet Chihiro finds something appealing in her. However, the duo soon become the target of Nozama and the returning Amazon Riders, since Chihiro is the origin of a new Amazon virus and Iyu's already dead. Chihiro and Iyu want to be more human, they want to live, but the duo's mere existence is harming others and they need to be stopped. Fate must be done. Encouraging the two's quest on wanting to be human is arguably the most normal character in Amazon's, Hiroki. He's just a really charming guy and is vital to Chihiro and Iyu's development. Super glad his actor got to be a proper Kamen Rider and Kamen Rider build. As for how the returning characters fare, we see Jin further descend into madness throughout his storyline. Seeing Haruka confident with his resolve is really rewarding after seeing Season 1, while expanding on some of the consequences of his resolve with Mamoru's betrayal, which I initially was hesitant on, but given his circumstances and the 5-year time skip, I can buy it and they do good heartbreaking stuff with it. Overall, while I think Season 2 isn't as good as Season 1, I still enjoyed myself quite a bit with it. The new characters were interesting while still playing around with the grey morality theming Season 1 established, and the fallout of Jin and Haruka's resolve from the end of Season 1 is very fascinating. Amazon Season 2 is a good follow-up, but it just didn't click with me like Season 1 did. Apparently the cast for Amazon Season 2 was gonna have no connection to Season 1 when it was being drafted up, which isn't what we got thanks to a major twist in Season 2, but I kinda wish we got that, as I might have been nicer to the season if it was standalone instead of having to follow up an amazing Season 1. While Season 2 was the end of the Amazons TV show, the world of Amazons had one more story up its sleeve, as a year after Season 2, we had the finale movie, The Last Judgment, and man did the already existing social political commentaries take a massive surge in not being subtled. Most of the movie takes place on an Amazon farm, and it functions narratively like an episode of the show, till the last 20 or so minutes where we get into traditional Kamen Rider final episode territory. These two plots are connected very well into a cohesive movie, even if the villain rider running the Amazon farm is such a nothing character despite having a chainsaw machine gun. Despite that, Lost Judgment is a solid movie and a nice bow to wrap up this sub-series. Overall, I really like the Amazons. Season 1 is one of my favorite Kamen Rider seasons, Season 2 is not as good but still solid in how it expands on the world, and Lost Judgment is a fine finale. Amazons made it clear that there's an audience for a quote-unquote more mature take on Kamen Rider, and totally heard it since they greenlit Kamen Rider Black Sun, which is doing the same thing as Amazons but with Kamen Rider Black. However, what makes Amazon stand out from other mature takes on all ages franchises is the style and nuances it presents. It's one of the best examples on how to take an all ages property and make it for quote-unquote an adult audience, while still keeping the elements of what people liked in the all ages stuff intact. Though to be clear, I don't want the Amazon style of show to become the norm for Kamen Rider every year. I think this style works better as a sideshow experiment to the currently airing show. Either way, Amazon's is good stuff if you want an even edgier and angstier take on the Kamen Rider franchise.